Hey folks, welcome back to another video. This time we're doing some cement ruins. Some heavily ruined cement buildings that are very battle damaged for some of our grimdark futuristic sort of settings, if you like. Definitely the 40k end of the scenery spectrum here. So what you want to do first is you want to get your piece of foam. Again, this is the same 8mm foam board I use for the majority of buildings I do that are ruins, and you want to measure out 6 inches by 4 inches and make blocks, and then you want to measure out some 3 inch by 2 inch blocks onto this sheet. Those are the sizes I've used. They come out fairly ruined, kind of mid-sized buildings and ruin obstacles for that sizes. Again, if you want to make things bigger, use a bigger measurement. If you want to make things a little smaller, use the smaller measurements. It's up to you. These are just a little bit of an inspirational guide to maybe get your creative ideas and wants going for however you want to make your ruins whenever you build them. Stage 2, here we go, time to get cutting. So all the grids and boxes you've just measured out, just take whatever your cutter of choice is, make sure it's nice and sharp, put in a new blade if need be, and then start cutting them out. At this point you want to slice off all of these panels into whatever size you want them, and then you want to start, roughly speaking, halving them diagonally, or cutting them into strips, or cutting damaged chunks out of them, any way you like. If you halve them diagonally and then add some ruined texture, you end up with twice as much ruins for the cuts you've made, and then at that point, once you get them cut out, you should end up with a nice table full of cut out and pre-measured stuff. And then once you've got all your cut bits there, it's then a case of going through those cut bits and deciding what you want to do with them. Stage 3, now you've got all your cut up sections and right angles cut out, and chunks and damaged areas here. Spread them all out across the whole of the table you're working on, and then try matching things together, adding bits and pieces where you like them. Try adding some offcuts as floors for certain areas you want to do, or as supports, or bits in areas of damage nearby or around. Chop and change, spend some time doing this. And then as you find you get things together in a way you want them, I feel the important part is to just add some pen marks here and there, and then most importantly, number all the bits together before you take them apart, so you can find them all later when you come back to glue them all together again. The numbering can come in pretty important. And then once you've kind of got all of that together, stage 4, you want to add some texture. This is the point where you want to rough up all your edges and corners, add any chips and cracks, any battle damaged areas, any little bullet holes. This can be done with anything you like. At this point I'm using the edge of a knife. You can use toothpicks, you can use any old thing you like, pencils, anything you want to do to mark the foam does the job great for this. And then just go through every piece you want to use, adding any damage and details you want. Stage 5, easy peasy time, get the hot glue gun turned on again. Once it all heats up and things are ready to go, just add your bead of hot glue up whichever edge you want to be gluing together. And then once you've got that done, just bring the two parts together at a nice solid 90 degrees, get the angle right, get things level. You use that little bit of working time you've got just to get things sitting exactly the way you want them. Give it a little wiggle, push in any corners, and then that is the main part of your ruins done. At this point, any little overspill out or gap filling you want to do with the overspill, just run your finger or your hot glue gun, preferably, maybe not your fingers, because this is hot glue. Damage can be done with such things. And then once that's done, once you've got your black marks lined up on the inside from where your floor is going to go, just add some more hot glue around where your floor is going to go into, and then add it over that same black mark Push it into place, keep it nice and firm, level it all out, make sure everything's sitting as nicely as you want. And then once that's done, the main gluing of your models is done. Go through all the pairs and sets you've made in one big batch. Stage 6, here we go. Time to get these little details put together. So these are some strips of thin EVA foam that I have cut out and done a little bit of battle damage and texturing to as well. I am just going to make some out here and there, pick out a few areas that are going to have some extra strips added to them for detail. Make sure all the damage is done beforehand. It just stops any extra damage potentially occurring to the ruins that is unintentional. Again, once you hot glue them down here, just rub off any excess you find. It doesn't have to be a perfectly beautiful job, because in the end it'll all add to the detail of the ruin. And then just go through all your ruin sets, putting on as many supports and straps as like this as you wish. And then another detail you can add to any of the floors you have is take a little bit of coffee stirrer or balsa wood or styrene, anything you like, anything your favourite choice is. You can make up some little I-beams out of some cardstock if you felt like it, and then just glue them in underneath to add a little bit of support to under all the floors, just to give them a little bit more of strength in the long run. Stage 7, here we are, just time to jump over to the painting table where you like to make your mess, and at this point I am using the same basing texture paint I used for pretty much most of the other builds that you've seen on this channel. It is just grey house paint with some sand mixed through it. It adds a very nice base coat for cement things such as this. These are one of the first projects I ever used it for, and it gives a nice base cement effect, and then all you need to do is just put it on all over, cover everything on every model, and that's you set. Once the batch is done, put them aside, let them dry, and then you can move on to the next stage of painting. So stage 8, and now I find cement is one of the easiest things to paint for scenery such as this, and I think it's a great way to start with this cementy grey, light grey base coat of texture, and then dry brush all your details on as you go. So I have a kind of simple 4-stage dry brushing I like to use for cement, and it is to start with this darker grey and hit everything with it, go all over the entire thing. Give it the dark grey touch. This can be quite heavy-handed, and it looks quite good in my opinion. Nothing goes wrong with it, and it darkens down any of the extreme light areas still showing through from the base coat. Step 2 in the dry brush, and I suggest not cleaning your dry brush in between these stages. Just getting the nice mix of colours and paints all over it works very well. The next stage of this is dark brown, and then at this point try and keep the majority of your dry brushing to the bottom half to 2/3 of the building, and that way it adds a little gradient of dirt as you can see it building up and splashing from the bottom, covering in. So the top is still quite washed clean by weather, but the dirt of the surrounding areas and grime is kind of slowly working its way up the building. So just slap on as much as you like. Sometimes it doesn't need to be a perfectly dry brush either. It will be a bit of a wet brush in times. And once this section is done, you can move on to the next colour in the dry brushing spectrum for my concrete painting tones. The next stage of the dry brush now is to... I swapped to a slightly smaller brush now, just for getting into some more fine details and corners. But the next stage is a dark green, and with the dark green here I am hitting all the way along the lowest ground levels of the ruin, and then I'm going and hitting any other crevices and cracks and areas where there most likely will be some sort of build-up of green mouldy colours or any sort of effects. Just add it on anywhere you like. Use this as a bit more of a highlight. Pick areas, darken down any areas you want left, pick out any details you might like, any ledges, any corners, any cracks here and there. And then once the dark green is done, the fourth stage is I like to use a white or a kind of beige colour at this point, sometimes a khaki, just to go around and pick out the highlights in any areas of the crumbled cement where the inner core of the cement will be showing through, that is obviously a little cleaner and newer than the old, more exposed outer edges. You can add a quick go over of any ruined or damaged areas. Again, any big pock marks here and there from battle damage, you can give a little highlight with the white. Bring it all together and just add this fourth tone of the dry brushing to finish the cement look. Here we are, stage 9, the very last step in this build. It is to take some wash of any colour you like. I'm using black here. For other ruins I've made in the past, I've used the brown. And it doesn't really matter, either or, personal preference. And I use it to pick out all of the battle damaged areas, any areas that would be shadowed or darker, or to show any areas of ruin. And then I use a very long brush at this point, and I just let any capillary action take the black into all the cracks, crevices, all the battle damage. You can go all over. All over works very well too in some situations. Depends how dirty and grimy you want your battle damaged areas and ruins to look. In this case, I didn't want them to be too dark. I wanted them to add a little bit of colour and interest to a somewhat darker board that they will be put on for the majority of their gameplay. And as always, after this there will be some glamour shots of these ruins on the table. And then if you've liked the video, the one final thing I will ask you to do is give the video a like, maybe leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, try and grow the numbers a little bit. If you liked what you see, hopefully you'll come back, and I shall see you in the next one. Thanks guys.